The aroma of Aunt Sarah's famous peach cobbler usually filled her kitchen, a comforting embrace on any given Sunday. Our story begins on just such a day, the kind where the sunlight streams through the window, painting golden stripes across the worn wooden floor. It was a picture of perfect, quiet tranquility in her bustling community. Presiding over this scene was Jamal, a man whose presence commanded respect, not just from his towering frame, but from the decades he'd spent as a canine handler, his senses honed to an almost supernatural degree. He was a beacon of calm, a silent observer of the world. Then came the sound. It wasn't the usual playful yelp or the happy whine. It was Max. Max, Jamal's loyal Labrador, a gentle giant who usually greeted every stranger with a wagging tail and a soft nudge. But this bark? This was different. It vibrated through the very floorboards, a guttural, primal sound, laced with an urgency that made every hair on Jamal's neck stand on end. It was a warning, a siren from something ancient, something deeply, fundamentally wrong. Max was fixed not on a squirrel dancing on the pecan tree but on a brightly colored toy chest, a brand new addition to the living room, a gift from David. Max's body was rigid, every muscle taut, ears pinned back, tail stiff. He growled, a low, ominous rumble, then barked again, teeth flashing in the soft afternoon light. Aunt Sarah, startled from her peaceful baking, chuckled nervously, trying to diffuse the tension. "Oh, silly Max, must be a mouse. David just picked up that chest, it's brand new." Her voice held a hint of defensiveness when she mentioned David, her beloved fiancé, a man universally adored in their community. But Jamal knew. He'd seen Max sniff out hidden explosives in Afghan villages, track armed suspects through the densest Carolina woods. When Max barked like that, it meant one thing, and one thing only: absolute danger. It was a truth that cut through the comforting facade of their Sunday afternoon like a shard of ice. And then Jamal saw her. Little Lily, his 6-year-old niece, who had been quietly arranging her dolls just moments before, was now cowering behind the couch, tiny hands clamped tightly over her ears, her small shoulders trembling. The innocent scene was undeniably tainted. Jamal's gaze met Max's, an unspoken communication passing between them. Guided by Max's unwavering, intense stare, Jamal took a slow, deliberate step toward the toy chest. The air in the room grew thick, heavy with unspoken fear. What unspeakable horror could possibly be hidden in a child's brightly painted toy box, guarded by a creature whose instincts had saved countless lives? Jamal slowly, cautiously, lifted the lid of the toy chest. Inside, a seemingly innocent jumble of colorful stuffed animals, a mermaid's, a worn teddy bear, a bright pink bunny, everything appeared utterly normal, disarmingly so, almost mocking the raw dread in Jamal's gut. But Max's low growl didn't stop. It intensified, vibrating from deep within his chest, a constant, ominous hum. Trusting his partner's unwavering instinct above all else, Jamal reached in, methodically pulling out toys one by one. Each soft toy felt heavier, more sinister, as if imbued with the silent screams of untold secrets. At the very bottom, beneath a thin layer of forgotten plastic blocks, something cold and metallic glinted in the fading light. Jamal's fingers closed around it. He pulled it out. It was a tiny black object, sleek, professional grade, no larger than a stick of gum. A camera lens. And a small, malevolent red light, blinking rhythmically, silently recording. The chilling reality hit Jamal like a physical blow. This wasn't just a sick game. It was a meticulously planned invasion. How easily such devices could be disguised. How seemingly harmless gifts could become instruments of surveillance. He knew, from his years in law enforcement, how quickly these hidden eyes could turn innocent homes into stages for unspeakable acts. Aunt Sarah gasped, her face draining of color as Jamal showed her the tiny device. She stammered, claiming David, her beloved fiancé, had insisted on giving them that very toy chest just last month, a housewarming gift for Lily's room. A cold certainty settled in Jamal's gut. David. It couldn't be. But Max knew. Later that night, the house was dark, but the silence was shattered again, not by a single bark, but by a frantic, insistent scratching. Max was at Lily's bedroom wall, scratching furiously, relentlessly, as if trying to tear through the plaster itself. It was the same wall where Max barked earlier, almost a direct line to Lily's bed. Lily whimpered in her sleep, a small, fearful sound that tore at Jamal's heart. Max was frozen, growling deep in his throat at the drywall, his eyes fixed, as if seeing something horrific through the plaster that Jamal couldn't. Jamal grabbed a flashlight, his hand trembling slightly. He was certain. Something else, something far more sinister, was buried here. The next morning, Lily came to breakfast, not in her usual bright playklothes, but wearing a long-sleeved shirt, despite the stifling summer heat. Her small hands instinctively gripped the hem, pulling it tighter, as if to hide something. Aunt Sarah walked in, and her eyes immediately fell on Lily's covered arms. She froze, a silent scream in her eyes. Jamal's heart twisted with a terrible premonition. Max sat quietly beside Lily's chair, unmoving, his gaze locked on the hallway, as if guarding an invisible perimeter. There was a truth here, Jamal narrated, his voice heavy with dread. A truth whispered by a dog, visible in a child's desperate attempt to hide her pain. A truth no one wanted to say out loud, because to say it was to shatter everything. The phone rang, jarring the fragile silence. It was Officer Lena Hayes, Jamal's trusted cybercrimes contact, rarely one to call after hours. Her voice was grim, tight with barely contained horror. "Jamal, you won't believe this. It's real, and it's far, far worse than we imagined." The camera had been recording for at least 2 months. The raw, unfiltered footage Lena described. It spoke of escalating emotional manipulation, chilling threats, and undeniable physical abuse. A man's voice, low and insidious, clearly audible. Lily's desperate, muffled pleas. Lena's voice cracked as she spoke. "Jamal, the things this child has endured." The encrypted video file played on Jamal's laptop, a chilling echo in the quiet room. Max immediately stood, a low, guttural growl rumbling from his chest, his hackles rising, his eyes locked on the screen. The raw footage filled the screen, Lily's bedroom, innocent and vulnerable. A tall, slim man entered, wearing a dark, long-sleeved shirt. His voice was a low, controlled whisper, laced with an insidious menace that made Jamal's blood run cold. "You know the rules, don't you, princess?" the man purred. "You talk, and I take your favorite toys. You scream, and I take something else. Something you love, even more." A heart-wrenching whimper, a barely audible no. The man grabbed Lily's favorite mermaid doll, twisted its head with a sickening snap, and casually tossed it across the room. He turned slightly, his wrist glinting with a distinctive silver bracelet Jamal had seen many times. Then, he shifted again, just enough for his face to become horrifyingly clear in the dresser mirror behind him. Jamal froze, a cold shock seizing him, like ice expanding in his veins. Max barked once, a sharp, piercing sound, full of accusation. It was David, Aunt Sarah's beloved fiancé, the pillar of their community, the man who always brought flowers, who coached the youth basketball team, who led Sunday school, the man everyone trusted. Aunt Sarah, standing behind Jamal, let out a choked cry. The glass pitcher she was holding slipped from her trembling fingers, shattering into 1,000 pieces across the tile floor, mirroring the complete demolition of her reality. "No," she whispered, collapsing onto the couch, her voice thin, ethereal with disbelief. "That's not... He wouldn't... He loves her. He loves us." Her denial was raw, visceral, a desperate attempt to cling to a shattered illusion. Jamal's voice was a low, dangerous rumble, barely controlled. "How long has this been happening, Sarah? The bruises, the fear. How long have you known, even in your gut?" Aunt Sarah's sobbing reply was barely coherent, fragmented between gasps for air. "I didn't know. I swear to God, Jamal, I didn't know. He was so good to us. He manipulated me. He threatened Lily. I didn't want to believe." Max padded quietly into the room, his eyes locked on the doorway, then on Lily, who had been drawn by her mother's cries. Lily, a tiny, fragile figure, peeked in from behind the hallway wall, her small hand reaching for Max's fur, clinging to him. Her voice was barely a whisper, yet it cut through the tension like a knife, chilling Jamal to his core. "Uncle Jamal," she breathed, her voice so small it was almost lost. "He said if I told anyone he'd hurt Max. He said Max wouldn't protect me forever. But I think Max is stronger. I think Max saved me." This moment, so quiet yet so profoundly powerful, hammered home Max's role as Lily's secret confidant, her silent protector, and ultimately, her unlikely savior. Jamal looked at his sister, her face buried in her hands, racked with guilt. He knew the painful, complex truth. Victims often protect their abusers, and loved ones can remain in denial, choosing comfort and the illusion of safety over confronting a terrifying reality. The truth was, Jamal narrated, his voice heavy with sorrow, Sarah had seen it. Perhaps not the physical bruises, perhaps not the damning video, but the subtle signs, the whispered fears, the inexplicable withdrawals. But like far too many people in our communities, Aunt Sarah had chosen comfort over confrontation, familiarity over frightening truth, and now her precious granddaughter was carrying the unbearable weight of her silence. This wasn't just David's crime. It was a devastating indictment of a system, and sometimes a community, that turns a blind eye. The bitter truth hung in the air, a silent accusation. Jamal took Max for a long, silent drive, the city lights blurring past in a kaleidoscope of indifference. His mind raced, each piece of the chilling puzzle clicking into place, forming a picture far more sinister than he could have imagined. His phone buzzed, cutting through the heavy silence. It was Officer Lena Hayes, her voice now a low, urgent whisper that sent a shiver down his spine. Jamal, this goes deeper. We recovered more. That camera wasn't just recording, it was streaming live. And it wasn't just streamed to David's personal device. Lena's next words hit him like a physical blow. The data was routed through a complex web of dummy servers, then bounced off a dark web network. Someone went to extreme lengths to cover their tracks. This isn't your average creep with a spy cam, Jamal. This is a sophisticated operation, and we've just uncovered evidence of other children, other addresses connected to this network. Lily wasn't just a victim, she was part of a larger scheme. A cold, controlled rage simmered within Jamal. The reality of online predator networks, how cunningly they leveraged anonymity and technology, was sickening. He thought of all the vulnerable children, the trust shattered, the lives stolen. This wasn't just about protecting Lily anymore, it was about tearing down a fortress of evil. Back at the house, Jamal moved with grim determination. He implemented a comprehensive security system, professional-grade cameras hidden discreetly, motion-stringed alerts, fortified locks, and a direct panic button to his canine unit contacts. We weren't just fighting one monster anymore, he reflected, his voice tight. We were fighting a hydra, one with chillingly effective tentacles reaching into unsuspecting homes. Lily, fragile yet resilient, clung to Max like a lifeline, her small hand never leaving his soft fur. Max, ever vigilant, never left her side, his quiet presence a constant, comforting weight. He was her shadow, her protector, her silent guardian in a world that had suddenly become terrifyingly unpredictable. At 2:03 a.m., Max's ears perked up. He stood, a low guttural growl rumbling from his chest, his body a coiled spring. His eyes were locked on the backyard window. Jamal checked his outdoor camera feed, a distinct shadow, tall and lean, moving with practiced stealth near the back fence. The figure was clearly attempting to tamper with one of the exterior sensors. Jamal's voice, amplified by an outdoor speaker, rang out, cold and unwavering, cutting through the night like a blade. Don't move. I've got a bead on you, and a canine trained to tear out your kneecap. Make one wrong move and you'll regret it for the rest of your pathetic life. The figure froze for a terrifying second, then turned and vanished into the night, abandoning their attempt. It wasn't a random robbery. It was a targeted probe, a chilling message. Someone came to see if Libate's access points were still active, if the product was still there. Officer Hayes' next call confirmed Jamal's darkest suspicions. The hooded figure was Thomas Ghost McKay, a notorious, high-ranking registered sex offender, rumored to be the shadowy architect of a vast online predator network spanning multiple states. The shocking, sickening connection. David and McKay had not only worked at the same auto body shop years ago, but recent financial records revealed a disturbing pattern of large payments from David to shell companies linked directly to McKay. David wasn't just a predator, Jamal, Hayes explained, her voice grim. He was a seller. Lily was a commodity. McKay was the buyer and the undisputed ringleader of a much larger, more monstrous enterprise. He was the one pulling the strings. This wasn't just abuse, Jamal stated, his voice hard, filled with a cold, righteous fury. This was organized grooming, exploitation, and trafficking. And Max pulled back the curtain on all of it. His bark wasn't just a warning, it was the first crack in a wall built on lies and innocence stolen. Jamal immediately contacted Detective Miller. Miller's face hardened as he processed the McKay connection. This just escalated to federal jurisdiction, Jamal. We're involving the FBI's Crimes Against Children Task Force and the state's cybercrime unit. This case just cracked open a national network thanks to your dog. Child Protective Services, CPS, arrived with a team, their faces somber. The sterile atmosphere of the interrogation room was softened only by Max's quiet presence. Lily, a tiny figure clutching Max's leash tightly, whispered her answers, haltingly, into Max's soft fur. "He said if I told anyone," she breathed, her small voice barely audible, "he'd make Max disappear. He said he'd take Max away forever." This deeply impactful detail illustrated Lily's profound love for Max and the cruel manipulation she endured. Jamal, leveraging his extensive connections and the undeniable evidence, secured an immediate, temporary full guardianship of Lily, prioritizing her safety above all else. He was prepared for a fight, for legal battles, but his only focus was Lily. Meanwhile, Aunt Sarah, shattered by the revelations, embarked on a painful journey of self-reckoning. She attended parenting classes, therapy sessions, and support groups, confronting her own denial and the terrifying implications of her choices. It was a long road, filled with tears and painful truths, but Jamal saw a glimmer of genuine remorse. A desperate desire to heal. Aunt Sarah slowly began to earn back small pieces of Lily's trust, demonstrating that even those who made profound mistakes out of fear or ignorance could find a path to growth and amends. One quiet afternoon, Lily, unprompted, gave Aunt Sarah a small hug. It was a tiny gesture, but a monumental step. One afternoon, Lily showed Jamal a new drawing. It was of Max, standing protectively between her and a shadowy figure with a distinctive silver bracelet. Above the shadow, she'd written in shaky crayon, "He said I was lying. He said Max didn't love me if I cried." Jamal's eyes welled up. He realized David hadn't just been physically abusive, he had psychologically tormented Lily, twisting her love for her mother, her desire to please, into instruments of control. Here's insidious whispers. "You don't want your mom to be sad, do you? If you cry, I'll know you're lying. Max won't protect a liar." The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension, buzzing with the presence of media from 3 states, all drawn by the unfolding story of the McKay network. Lily, a tiny figure in a bright yellow dress, clutching Max's leash tightly, walked to the witness stand. Max, ever her steadfast shadow, lay calmly at her feet, his head resting on her shoe. "My name is Lily," she said, her voice small but clear, cutting through the silence of the room like a tiny, brave bell. "And I was scared. I was scared all the time, but nobody saw it, not even Mommy, not at first. But Max saw me, Max heard me. He barked at the toy chest and found the camera. He growled at the door when the bad man came. He barked so loud that the truth had to come out. I used to think nobody could protect me, not really. But Max did, and Uncle Jamal did, and I'm not scared anymore." Her words, simple yet profound, delivered the core message of the story, a testament to her incredible bravery and Max's profound impact. The jury returned swiftly, guilty on all counts. David was sentenced to a maximum of 35 years without parole, but the story didn't end there. Using the damning evidence gathered, especially David's extensive digital footprint and the network uncovered, the state immediately began building a much broader, federal case against McKay and his vast predator ring, promising to dismantle a sprawling criminal enterprise. Max's initial bark, an act of pure, selfless instinct, had not only saved Lily, but had become the first domino in bringing down a nationwide network of child abuse. It was a moment of profound justice, a testament to how one small act of courage could send ripples through the darkest corners of the world. Life doesn't magically return to normal after such darkness. The initial relief, the rush of justice, slowly gave way to the arduous, often painful process of healing. It took months of intensive therapy sessions for Lily, countless police reports, CPS evaluations, and long, quiet nights where Lily still woke up crying, haunted by shadows only she could see. But Max was always there, whether curled at the foot of her bed, a warm, comforting weight, or pressed gently against her back on the couch during a quiet moment. He never moved until her breathing steadied, until her small body relaxed. His presence was a silent, unwavering anchor in her storm, a constant reminder of safety and unconditional love. In many ways, Jamal reflected, his voice soft. Max became her voice when she had none, her silent protector, her furry therapist. He gave her the courage to start speaking again, to trust again, to simply be again. It was a powerful testament to the unique, profound role animals can play in facilitating emotional healing and rebuilding trust, especially when human trust has been shattered. Aunt Sarah, humbled and shattered by the revelations, committed fully to her own arduous journey of recovery. She attended parenting classes, therapy sessions, and support groups for families of abuse victims, confronting her own denial and the terrifying implications of her past choices. It was a long road, filled with tears and painful truths, but Jamal saw a glimmer of genuine remorse, a desperate desire to heal and atone. Slowly, painstakingly, Aunt Sarah began to earn back small pieces of Lily's trust, demonstrating that even those who made profound mistakes, out of fear or ignorance, could find a path to growth and amends. One quiet afternoon, Lily, unprompted, reached out and gave Aunt Sarah a small hug. It was a tiny gesture, but a monumental step, a fragile bridge beginning to form. On a crisp October morning, bathed in golden sunlight, a new chapter began. Jamal officially adopted Lily. Lily, radiant in a beautiful navy dress adorned with tiny gold stars, stood beside him. Max, a silent, noble witness, sat majestically at their feet beside the judge's bench. "Do you understand what this means, Lily?" the kind judge asked, her voice gentle and warm. Lily, her eyes shining with a newfound sparkle, nodded firmly. Her voice, once a whisper, was now clear and strong. "It means he's my forever dad," she said, sealing their new, unbreakable bond with simple, profound truth. It was a heartwarming, deeply satisfying resolution, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to heal the deepest wounds. A formal letter arrived from the mayor's office. Max was being honored at the city's prestigious annual Heroes Among Us ceremony, to be awarded the coveted Silver Paw Medal, a distinction rarely given to an animal, reserved only for those whose actions directly saved human lives. The ceremony was held on a golden afternoon in early November, the air crisp, the fallen leaves crunching underfoot. A large crowd gathered in the city park, citizens, police officers, local officials, and news crews from across the state. Jamal walked onto the brightly lit stage with Max, Lily holding the leash proudly, her eyes beaming up at her hero. The mayor spoke eloquently, his voice ringing out across the park, praising Max's unwavering instincts, profound loyalty, and his refusal to back down in the face of unseen evil. He spoke of how Max's singular act of courage didn't just save one child, but began the unraveling of a monstrous criminal enterprise. As the mayor pinned the gleaming Silver Paw Medal onto Max's collar, Max let out a single, sharp, joyful bark, not the bark of alarm, but of contentment. The crowd erupted in cheers and thunderous applause, a wave of collective gratitude washing over them. Max looked up at Jamal, then licked Lily's hand, his soft eyes conveying a silent, profound understanding. The medal wasn't just for Max. It was a powerful symbol of hope, of the unseen heroes among us, of the incredible power of animal instinct, and of the unconditional love that could mend the deepest wounds, even those inflicted in the darkest corners. That night, under a sky sprinkled with the first hesitant stars, Jamal, Lily, and Max sat together on the porch swing. Lily, nestled securely against Jamal's arm, her head resting on Max's soft fur, looked up. "Do you think Max knows he got an award, Uncle Jamal?" "Think so." Jamal chuckled softly, pulling her closer. "I think he knows he did something incredibly important, Sweet Pea. Something that changed everything, not just for us, but for so many others." Lily grew quiet again, a thoughtful frown on her brow. Her next question, though whispered, resonated deep within Jamal. "Uncle Jamal?" she breathed, her voice small. "Why didn't anyone hear me before? Why did only Max know?" Jamal looked out at the silhouettes of the trees against the twilight sky, his voice soft but firm, carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. "I think sometimes, Lilybug, people get too busy. Or they get scared. Or they just don't want to believe that bad things can happen close to them, right under their noses. They see what they want to see, not always what's truly there. They look with their eyes, but they don't listen with their hearts. But that doesn't mean you were invisible, it just means they weren't listening hard enough." "But Max was?" Lily whispered, her eyes fixed on the loyal dog, who responded with a gentle nudge. "Yeah," Jamal nodded, stroking Max's head, his voice full of profound gratitude. "Max always listens. He hears with his heart, not just his ears. He taught me to listen better too." Jamal reflected on the incredible, improbable journey from an old toy chest, a suspicious bark, and a terrifying discovery, to the fragile but profound peace they now shared. He thought about Aunt Sarah slowly rebuilding her life and the ongoing investigation that continued to dismantle McKay's network, all triggered by Max. It was a testament to the often underestimated intelligence and intuitive power of animals, how a single act of selfless instinct could unravel a web of evil. The story of Max and Lily isn't just about a dog and a little girl. It's about the silent truths that surround us every single day. It's about how sometimes the most profound insights, the most critical warnings, come from the most unexpected, unassuming sources. A gut feeling, a persistent whisper, or indeed, a loyal dog's unwavering bark. How many times do we dismiss our own gut feelings because they don't fit the logical narrative? How many times do we overlook the subtle signs from those who truly cannot speak for themselves? A child struggling in silence, an elderly person experiencing neglect, or an animal showing unexplained distress. If you've ever felt like no one heard you, like your pain was invisible, remember Lily's story. Remember Max. Your voice, your instincts, your experiences, they matter. And if you see something, hear something, feel something is wrong, trust that instinct. Don't dismiss it. Be brave enough to investigate. This season, this very moment, let's pledge to be more like Max. Vigilant, loyal, compassionate, and unwavering in our pursuit of what's right. Let's learn to truly listen to the barks, the whimpers, the unspoken anxieties, the subtle shifts in behavior that speak volumes. Be the guardian someone desperately needs, because sometimes, the greatest heroes are the ones who simply listen. What silent truths are waiting to be heard in your life? What instincts have you ignored? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's build a community that not only hears, but truly listens. If Mac's courage touched your heart, like it touched ours, please consider subscribing to our channel and becoming part of our family. Your support helps us share more incredible stories of silent guardians and everyday heroes,